Um, I want to look at Ingersoll's. Oh, before I go on to Ingersoll, let me point out, Prothero specifically talks about the way that he's proposing the Bible should be taught at the high school level. He suggests that it should be taught neutrally. However, there are people in religious studies who argue that religious studies should be taught neutrally also at the college level. Not because of the Constitution or anything like that, but they just think that religious studies should be taught neutrally. So that these two religious studies textbooks that I just grabbed off my shelf, both of these authors, or all three authors, argue that religion in general, even at the college level, should be taught neutrally. They would completely disagree with the way that I've been criticizing the Bible as we've gone along in this class. They would say that I've taught the material in the wrong way. So Prothero is not alone in suggesting that the religion should be taught neutrally, and a lot of these people argue it should be taught neutrally at all levels.
I think at a college level, though, it's like you're at the age enough where even if your teacher's, teaching you something that maybe you don't necessarily believe in, or contradicts what you believe, I think it's kind of like you're already set in stone. You're not as impressionable as like a teenager or an elementary school kid, because you can kind of think for yourself like what you believe in.
So you would say that maybe there's some value to the ideal of neutrality, but probably not at the college level, at another level, like at the high school or junior level.
And also, at a college level, unless you're like majoring in religion, if you go to the first couple weeks and the professor is like, if you're completely offended by what they're saying, you could always probably drop the class and take something else.
Right, you got more freedom to opt out than high school kids do. Yeah. The only reason why I brought that up is because there's a huge group in religious studies, and it's intensely debated still to this day. There's scholars. I'm going to go to a conference this November, and there are going to be scholars presenting papers on why we should teach religion neutrally, and why we should study it in a neutral manner and never make any critical remarks on it.
Yeah, even though they say public and private schools, they focus more on public schools.
Well, Prothero does, because Prothero's talking about...
So they're talking about both?
Yeah, these guys think that religious studies as an academic discipline should be neutral toward religion.
But then how would you teach the New Testament, neutrality?
That's a good question.
I
don't think any of these people are New Testament scholars. Yeah. So Ingersoll. Some of the things that she likes about Prothero's book, well, let me ask you, what does she like about Prothero's book? Where does she agree with Prothero?
She agrees that Americans are religiously illiterate. And something should be done about it, I guess.
Ingersoll agrees, yeah, Americans do seem to be illiterate, and she thinks that Prothero's right about that. Where else does she agree with Prothero?
Presenting a proposal for change.
Be more specific here, because she disagrees and agrees with elements of this proposal.
I don't really know how to reword that. Just read that right over.
Where does Ingersoll agree with Prothero?
Well, what I got is that she agrees that something should be done. She just doesn't agree with his proposal on how it should be.
Yeah. both of you are pointing out that she does agree that there should be some sort of solution. But still that's vague. She also agrees with Prothero. She thinks that teaching religion should not be character education. What do you think she means by this, character education? What does that mean?
Teaching you how you're going to be as a person.
How to what?
How you're going to be as a person.
Yeah, that's the basic idea, right? When you guys went to elementary school, didn't you have teachers, tell you stories about bad things that happen to people who lie, and that's why you should all tell the truth and stuff like that? That's character education. You tell someone a story in order to teach them a life lesson. Neither Prothero nor Ingersoll thinks that the study of religion should be about character education. Neither of them think that if we're teaching the Bible, we should teach it in a way so that you guys can learn about how to live your life. She also agrees that the study of religion should not be preaching or devotional. That as a professor or a high school teacher, if I'm talking about the Bible, I should not try to convert you. I should not try to preach to you. I should not try to have a devotional reading of the Bible. Prothero and Ingersoll agree on both of these. Again, the key here is not. It should not be character education. It should not be preaching. So, where does Ingersoll begin to disagree with Prothero? Yep.
She says that his type of religion, that he thinks that it's neutral, but it's not neutral. I think it's Protestant, and then he only teaches it's centered around the Sermon on the Mountain.
Right. I'll put this over here because this is part of her critique of Prothero. So, Ingersoll's critique. He privileges some parts of the Bible over others when he says, because in the chapter where he talks about what parts of the Bible should be taught, he makes recommendations. And she was like, why would you focus on that part rather than another part? Right? I was thinking about this just the other day after we read 1 Corinthians. What does Paul say about the guy who's sleeping with his mother-in-law? What should the church do to him? Kick him out. Then he goes on to say specifically, don't even what? Don't even associate with him. Don't even have dinner with him. Don't sit at a table and eat dinner with him. Right? If you're reading the New Testament, there are some people who are like, they'll focus on the love your neighbor, right? Jesus hung out with sinners. Jesus had dinner with tax collectors and sinners. And then there's other people who are like, Paul says you're not supposed to associate with sinners. Right? Which part are you going to privilege? Well, Prothero would probably privilege the you should love sinners and hang out with sinners part. Why might he prefer that part? Any guesses? I mean, I don't know for sure, but I could entertain guesses as to why he might prefer that part.
It was Jesus himself that did that.
No. So he might offer that as a reason. I could see him maybe saying that in defense.